Well, good day guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of the Seagull Models Yak 55M build series. So what we are doing now, we are starting the initial build. So I have the kit here, it's all out, got it, it's still all in the plastic. Right at this point now, what I will be doing is taking the fuselage out first. Considering that this kit has been in the box for a very long time, what I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to try my best to switch camera angles here. No, that's not going to work. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the fuselage out and I'm going to inspect it because it's been sitting in the box for a long time. Whenever I build a kit, I like to go over everything and make sure that it is still structurally sound. Over a period of time, things like glue can come undone, and being that this is an ARF or almost ready to fly, you know, they're built in a factory, in a production line, and sometimes you might get the the Friday afternoon special, and by that, Friday afternoon, knock off work, it's the last one in the line and it's a rush to get it done and get out the door. So what I'm going to do now is take the fuselage out of the box, and we're going to go over to the table behind me and we're going to inspect it. Okay, now so we have the fuselage out of the box, and so what I've just done off camera, just taking the Canopy Bolts out. So with this kit, most the hardware is metric, and a lot of it is looks like possibly M4, if I can get the camera to focus. Yeah, it looks like M4 size thread. Underneath here, they've just got all the bolts in. So what I'll do is I will take the canopy off. Now, as you can see here, the dome is not on, it's actually in the box there somewhere. So what I'm going to do is take this off, and what I like to do is, as I said, I'd like to go over the kit just to make sure that it's glued properly. So for instance, like here we have our radio tray or servo tray. Make sure all the glue is sufficient. What I like to do with a screwdriver, just push around. It's a little bit rickety at the moment, but push around, see if anything moves, like here, like where we have some formers, push to see if there's any movement, whether it needs to be re-glued. It does look pretty good. As I said, it has been sitting in the box for 7 years. So, and like, you have model planes that you'll have for years and years, but they do require maintenance periodically, but that will be a video for another time. So down here, just check things, make sure they're all glued properly, pull on it, so forth. Check little things, make sure It's nicely glued. This is going to be an important part to check too, especially with a large engine like the OS GT33 that I am putting on it. You want to make sure that the firewall engine mount box is sturdy. But fortunately, if you look down in here, the construction goes all the way through. It's all one piece, so I'm quite confident that it should be fine. Down here, I might add, if I can get it to focus, down there I might add a little bit of glue, but other than that, it looks pretty good so far. Everything is where it should be, and of course I can't grab it because I'm looking through the lens. I'm going to off camera do a little bit more checking, just little things here and there, and then we'll start. It doesn't look, that's minor, so I'll move on to the wings and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so we have one of the wings here. Now the wings are an important part to inspect, and you can see my filthy handprint there. So wings are important because obviously they are doing the heavy lifting. So we want to make sure that everything is in place. There's no, obviously it's going to be a little bit hard to inspect the wings thoroughly, but you know, you want to just squeeze things here and there, make sure that everything's there's no movement or unnecessary movement. So things like for instance, you got wood sheeting here, you know, just feel it, make sure there's no cracks in the wood when you press on it, things like that. Underneath, don't worry about that, fellas. That's just the aileron coming out. It's obviously it's not glued. A nice little touch here. They've already cut out the hole in the covering for mounting the servo, which is a nice little touch, makes it easy, a little bit easier for me. Got some nice hinges here, not the flimsy fiberglass style ones that some kits come with. These are a nice touch, nice finish. Doesn't look like I have to go over anything. Seems as it should be. And so far, well, this wing passes the test. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the other wings and control surfaces off camera, and then we will start going into the initial build. Alright, so I have gone over all the control surfaces. I've got the elevator, the rudder, got ailerons and that. So everything, so the vertical and horizontal stabilizer is all in good condition. There's no defects or anything. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if you can hear some weird tapping noises. On the roof above me, some small sparrows have decided right now, as I'm filming, to practice their Irish river dance tap dancing on the roof. So if you can hear a lot of tapping going on up above, we've got some sparrows doing their Irish tap dancing, so I apologise ahead of time. since stopped at this very moment, but they've been going nuts. Oh, no, they've started again. Okay, so I've done check the control surfaces and so forth. So the fuse is good, vertical and horizontal stabilizer are good, the wing's good, all the control surfaces are good. So now what we're going to do, guys, we are actually going to now start getting into the build. Okay guys, so we are about to start the construction. Now it's been actually a couple of hours since I've cut to this part here. Just as I've finished that last little section before now, decided to absolutely pelt down with rain.
Ollie Williams with the Black U Weather Report. Ollie? It's raining sideways!
And so in that time, while I've been waiting for the rain to stop, my new camera has turned up. So you could probably tell probably see all the imperfections in my face now with this new camera. But so yeah, I just had to wait for it to start raining because we're in a tin shed here, and it would have just been absolutely loud and you wouldn't have been able to hear a thing. So what we are going to be doing now as we start, we're going to be starting with our control surfaces here. So I have the right wing. Now this process is going to pretty much be the same for your ailerons, your rudder and your elevator control surfaces. When these look a little bit like robot hinges. They're very nice quality hinges, but I'm going to show you a little tip when using these kind of hinges. But what it says to do in the instruction manual, and this is a first for me, so it must have to do with these hinges here, but it says to use some, it recommends to use some CA glue in the holes, and I can only assume that it says that so it's to harden the area in which the hinge slots into, so when you go to glue the hinge in, it's got a good surface area to adhere to. So for that I'm going to be using some Zap CA. This is the thin CA. It's very good, it soaks into the wood and hardens things up. I doubt, I mean this is foam safe kicker, but it's still good for CA. I'm going to be using that on the control surfaces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to show the initial start of the CA, and then I will pause it and then we'll cut to the next bit. Okay, so what I have here, this is the aileron. Now this is going to what I'm about to do is going to be relative for all the control surfaces and the parts that they are connected to. So with the aileron and on the main wing, it'll be relative to the rudder and vertical stabilizer and the elevator and horizontal stabilizer. So what I'm going to do here is just get some CA glue very carefully, not to spill it, and just let it soak in. And guys, if you're using this, please remember CA glue, the vapors are very, very toxic, so make sure you're doing this in a well ventilated area. And if we hold it there for a little bit, you can probably just see a bit of smoke coming out. So that's just the chemical reaction of the CA glue. It's not setting itself on fire. Okay, so that's this first part of doing the control surfaces. So I'm going to do the rest on the wing here, and I will continue on to the next part. Okay, now we have our parts ready. So we've got the CA glue in the holes for where the hinges attach. Now what we are going to be doing is putting the hinges in and attaching the control surfaces. Now, one thing I'm going to give you a little tip on when you're doing this part, when you're dealing with these kind of hinges, they are, as you can see, a tubular kind of hinge. So what I'm going to do is I'm only going to glue in one side first. So I'm going to basically stick them in, glue them in to the main wing first, but I'm going to leave this end dry. The reason being is, as you can see, as I said, they're a tubular style hinge. So that means that when they're in the hole, they have the ability still to move while the epoxy is drying. So you can put them down like this. However, what I'm going to do, as I said, one side here is just going to be glued in. Then I'm going to attach the aileron here to the wing with the hinges, and then have the aileron facing down or up, doesn't really matter. That way all the hinges are facing in the same direction, and so if, say for instance, it's on an angle, as I push it up, it'll naturally want to move back so it's in the up position along with all the other hinges. So that's just a little tip there. So what I'm going to do is now mix up some 30-minute epoxy. Now you can use 15-minute if you like. I do not recommend 5-minute epoxy because it gives you less time to work getting the hinges in place and the control surface connected, so you can have it all in the right spot. So I do recommend 30-minute epoxy. You can use 15. I don't recommend at all you use 5-minute epoxy. So I'll just mix this up and then we'll continue. Okay guys, so I have the hinges put in, and as you can see it's all wet. Now this is where it gets interesting. So like I said, it's good to use 30-minute epoxy, and it's always good to have too much and not enough. So now what we're going to do is we're going to attach the aileron to the main wing, so that way the hinges are all aligned and in this facing the same direction. So if you just bear with me a quick second, I'll do my best to do this on camera. I may have to edit this, I'm not too sure. So now what we do is we have the aileron staying up like that, and then that way all the hinges are all facing the one direction, and once the epoxy has set, it will be safe to take the aileron off, and when we can glue the epoxy on the control surfaces. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest of this off camera for the main wing, and we'll go from there. Alright, so what I've done here, as you can see, I've got both ailerons attached and facing upwards. So what I have to do now is just wait, make sure once it's cured I can then safely take off the aileron, so then I can mix up a little more epoxy and attach those. What I'm going to do now is start doing the exact same thing, except with the vertical and horizontal stabilizers and their control surfaces. So that's the next part. I will do that off camera and I'll show you the progress and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so we have done the control surfaces. Well, not completely done the control surfaces. At the moment we have just put the hinges into the main parts for the control surfaces. So I've done the main wings. Here we've got the vertical stabilizer and the rudder here, and we have the horizontal stabilizers and elevators. So what I'm doing now, so as before I showed, they're glued into the main parts, and I've just left the other half of the hinge dry, and just so now that they're facing down or up or however, that way the hinges are all lined up perfectly, and I'm just letting the epoxy dry. And another little tip, in the instruction manual it says to use, if I get it to focus here, to put a little petroleum jelly on the hinges. The whole idea of that is to prevent epoxy resin from getting into the hinges and seizing them. What I've done is, if we move over here, is I got a little WD-40. I did this before I put them in, but got some WD-40 and just gently sprayed the hinge points before I put epoxy on the necessary parts, and then I put them all in. And so the whole idea, like I said, the whole idea is it's to prevent the epoxy from adhering to the inner part of the joint there. So that's that bit done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the video here. It would have gone for long enough, so I'll end the video here, and part 3 we will start to move on to other parts, mainly the fuselage, and seeing where to put electronics and so forth. So that's the end of this video, guys. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in part 3. Cheers, guys.